Welcome back to another video of The Roottrees Are Dead, a detective puzzle game where we need to figure out the Roottree family tree. If you're new here, I would highly suggest you check out the playlist in the top right corner to catch up with the story. We did finish the main storyline in the previous video, filling up the whole family tree, but it turns out we unlocked Roottreemania, which contains some more mysteries, more secrets about the family. Roottreemania will spoil unlocked content. Make sure you've tied up any loose ends before starting. We did tie up all the loose ends, I believe. Oh, knock at the door.
Hi, I'm Clark. Probably not who you expected to be knocking, but life's funny sometimes.
Clark. Oh, wait, Clark. The naughty Clark. The one with many wives.
You've done well staying anonymous. It took us a while to track you down. A lot has happened in the last year. Far too much of it public. But there's stuff going on behind the scenes, too. I never wanted to be president. I'm not great with stress. And with my mother's deteriorating
Okay, he became the next president. I was wondering.
I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because part of the fallout of Sam's book is that everyone's coming out of the woodwork. Now that it's public knowledge, the Clancy Trust covers any Roottree despite their history with us. A lot of potential cousins have surfaced.
Of course,
You may
of course.
have seen that man on the cover of NewsTime. That was a disaster for us.
NewsTime. Wait, I gotta start taking notes.
And then Miracle went and made it all about himself.
Miracle went and made it all about
The long
himself.
and short of it is, a lot of potential cousins just showed up. Sam's helping some of them, but she's not really going about it the right way. And she's not taking calls from anyone in the family. I let it slip through a mutual friend that I found you, and I was stopping in. It's manipulative, but I'm hoping she'll reach out to you. You can let her know I'm on her side.
Okay.
In the meantime, if you're willing, I can share our files with you. Pass them along to Sam if she reaches out. I'm genuinely hoping she'll realize I'm an ally. Feel free to do your own research. I've been told you enjoy things like this.
I do.
To each their own.
To each their own. Okay, we got some new evidence. Okay, so all the old evidence that we had is not relevant anymore. We have new ones. Previously on the Roottrees Are Dead. And we have some insight here. This is a new investigation with a new focus after many months of newfound interest in the Rootrees. It is recommended you try to catch up with some of what happened since last time. Some web researches may yield new or different results. And some books and magazines from your previous investigation may be relevant to your new one. Okay. So we have to go over everything as if it was new, pretty much. It's also a much more widespread search. The list of first and last names you can choose from will contain red herrings. Oh gosh. Okay. That will definitely make things much harder. Not all of them will be used. Oof. Now I know. Now I understand what you meant. That things are gonna get harder. Below is a reminder of some of the most notable beats of your initial dive into the Roottree family tree. All evidence from before is still available, and for your convenience, any searches that do not lead to new information will function as they did during your first investigation. This pretty much repeats everything that happened in the previous parts to kind of refresh the memory. But there are 8 insights somewhere here, okay? What is this? Notable events. Start here. Today is August 3rd, 1999. It has been 8 months since you helped Sam Madsen with the research necessary for her book. Sam was true to her word and paid you an incredibly large sum of money. She never mentioned you by name, however, so you've managed to keep a low profile. The Roottrees, on the other hand, have not. Below is a summary of notable events since the book's release, though you can refresh your memory in full detail by searching online. So lots of different paths we can research here. 6 pieces. Sam Madsen's book about Elias Roottree was released in February. It was a bestseller for a few months. At the time, Carl had not yet been replaced. Okay, so her book was called 6 Pieces, okay? I'm sure it will lead to some things. The Roottree Rift. In March, the Roottree company stumbled publicly as they attempted to respond to the book's release with multiple conflicting press releases and a clear lack of leadership. Clark Rafferty LaRue. Clark was announced as the permanent successor to Carl Roottree and welcomed Sam Madsen to the family officially. The company hired an outside legal group to handle the changes to the Clancy Trust. This included any other new questions of lineage. 5 Ps. After this announcement, there was a rash of different people claiming to be Roottrees, mostly dismissed as opportunists and scammers. The highest profile of these, by a wide margin, was a rapper named Fellowes, who has changed his moniker to 5 Ps as a publicity move at the same time. 5 Ps is the only notable person on the updated tree. Well, if he's the only notable one, it shouldn't be too difficult to figure out who he is, right? Roottreemania. In another high-profile misstep, Miracle Roottree publicly and vehemently denied that 5 Ps was a Roottree. The Rootree's legal team then offered to do a DNA test to get 5 Ps to drop his claim, and in a moment that caught what seemed like the entire world by storm, the test proved he was a Roottree. Suddenly, the world was obsessed with the Roottrees. Oh gosh. Anonymom and Jane Doe Roottree. In July, an anonymous woman, who the press began to refer to as Anonymom, appeared in interviews with her face and voice disguised. She claimed that an affair with a Roottree led to the birth of her daughter, aka Jane Doe Roottree. If true, this would make her daughter yet another secret Roottree, and therefore entitled to a share of the clan's trust. Nobody knew it at the time, but this would turn out to be the last chapter in the Roottreemania saga. As more and more of Anonymom's story came out, people began to notice how much it echoed 5 Ps in nearly every significant way. The court of public opinion began to turn, confirming the world's suspicions. The DNA test, orchestrated by lawyers on both sides, proved that her daughter was not a Roottree. This final event caused public disappointment, smugness from doubters, and countless accusations of the entire ordeal being an elaborate hoax or attempt at fraud. Things got a bit ugly, and the fun of Roottreemania seemed to disappear overnight. Now, a month later, it feels like a distant memory. Oh boy, that sounds like a lot of drama, a lot of intrigue, and a lot of research that will need to be done. This is a letter from Clark to Sam and me. The company I hired to help us with the clan's trust is busy pouring through the entire family's history, as well as people they may have had contact with. That said, the family is not particularly happy with this and are doing their best to slow things down. Many of them are actively avoiding our interviews. Every time there's a high-profile public case, it causes headaches, so please, I don't mind if you do your research, but I ask that you stop going to the press. Instead, we have a highly trained team of lawyers to back you up. We're ready and willing to verify anyone and everyone you believe could be realistically part of a relationship that led to the birth of a new Roottree. Just tell us who to investigate by filling in the new sections of the tree, and we'll take the time to handle verifying that the timeline checks out. But keep in mind why we're here. If someone didn't have a child or has already been disqualified by our lawyers, like in that case of the girl with a negative DNA test, there won't be a place for them on the tree. We're not just looking for affairs and infidelities, we're only looking for the ones that led to potential new Roottrees. Some spots in the new section will be marked with a tree icon. Those areas are reserved for members of the original family tree you filled in 8 months ago. Just like last time, be sure to use birth names for everyone you add. Married names or nicknames won't be enough. To start sorting out the infidelities, I recommend you turn your eyes to the men in positions of power. I'd love to say that's only because it would have been a lot harder for the women to hide 9 months of pregnancy and birth without the family noticing, but I can't. I'll be blunt, I'm no stranger to infidelity. I wish I could claim that I was a perfect husband, but you've seen the family tree, so why pretend? Well, we've seen it, Clark, yeah. Some of us learn how to wield our family name and fortune to our benefit, consequences be damned. I can't change the past or unhurt those who I betrayed. Instead, all I can do is be honest with myself and to you, refuse to make any more mistakes, and do my best to sort out the various messes we've left behind. So please fill in the tree, and together we can figure out how to begin to make amends. Good luck and thank you both. Well, here we are. And there's another top secret. Are you kidding me? You'll have to be extra sleuthy this time around to deduce the truth. Pay close attention to what you find and be sure to look into loose ends. Oh gosh. Possible infidelity 1. Possible infidelity 2. Possible infidelity 3. With how many ladies? Someone's been busy, alright. Family tree update. So not an infidelity, like a marriage and a new child. Okay. This is the original tree that we created in the previous one. Interesting. Well, the notable root tree. Let's start with that. The only notable root tree is 5Ps. Let's start by searching for his name. 5Ps, aka Felix Fellowes. Oh, right. I think his name was mentioned. Oh, gosh. This is way harder. Seriously. There is no brute forcing this one, y'all. Felix Fellowes. And the professions are they the same ones as before? They are, yes. Well, he is a musician. A rapper is a musician. Some might disagree, but that is the case. 5Ps, aka Felix Fellowes, is a rapper who has found some recent radio play after being publicly confirmed as a long-lost Roottree and entitled to part of their fortune. His alias 5Ps is a play on 5 pieces. An article you find on a website known for their particularly harsh reviews of modern music gives his most recent album, Root of All Evil, 1 star out of 7 for whatever reason, with the headline, "More poser than my action figure collection." The review mentions his real name is David, and he used to go by Dirty Davy. Wait, his real name is David? Not Felix, okay, David. Is Fellowes his real surname? And the author rues the fact that his rebranding was a blatant marketing stunt at the expense of his mother's tragic past. She overdosed when he was 16. Apparently only one of the songs on the album is new, and the others were simply rewritten to turn blatant reference to sex, drugs, and violence into clumsy euphemisms. His rise to prominence was kick-started when he appeared a few months ago on the cover of NewsTime, holding a photo of his mother with Gaia Hudson. At first, the Roottree company denied it vehemently. Miracle Roottree even appeared on the same magazine a week later, but since then, they've backtracked and publicly welcomed him to the family. Their press release at the time stated that they had new evidence that confirmed his story. NewsTime, that's definitely something we want to search for. Yeah, we have a new periodical, NewsTime. NewsTime is a major news periodical that releases a new issue every week. The rapper 5Ps famously appeared on the cover claiming to be a Roottree. Then 1 week later, Miracle Roottree did the same, denying that he was. Because of this high-profile back-to-back discourse right before the start of Roottreemania, they appear to be the de facto publication to get news about the ongoing Roottree saga. They reported record subscriber numbers during this time, which lasted until the end of Roottreemania, when the world generally stopped paying much attention and they went back to reporting on modern, more traditional news. Let's search for 5Ps in NewsTime then. Felix Fellowes, aka 5Ps, famously appeared on the cover of NewsTime, kicking off Roottreemania. Then a week later, Miracle Roottree appeared. Summary of both articles. I was thinking, okay, so we get both articles. Good. I was about to search for Miracle as well. Well, here is the rapper with a photo of his mother and Guy Hudson. 5Ps, aka Felix Fellowes, appeared on the cover of NewsTime holding a photo of his mother and Guy Hudson. The article concerns his insistence that his father was Guy Hudson. The story was dramatic and sensational and initially dismissed as fake until a DNA test proved that he was related to Guy Hudson. 5P says that his mother Joanna was Zach Morden's secretary when he retired, and then Guy Hudson's secretary for only 1 or 2 weeks after that, before she quit. The first few weeks that he was president. His parents divorced when he was 4 after his father learned of the affair. Felix and his mother then moved to Portland because she was afraid for her and her son's life. He grew up with her until he was 16, but one day his mother never came home from the movie rental store where she worked the register. The next morning they found her dead from an overdose in her car. She had stolen all of the cash from her drawer and spent it on heroin. As Felix went through her belongings, the only things he had to remember her by were a hairbrush she always used, some photos, and a stuffed animal from her childhood. But then he found it, a box hidden in the back of her closet. Inside were love letters and photos related to Guy Hudson, as well as a letter from his father containing threats. He threw it all away with the exception of the one photo he appears with on the cover of NewsTime. He says it was the only one where they were dressed. Okay. The only one not from the affair itself. The picture is shown in full inside the magazine and was added to your evidence. The magazine also includes some additional history about 5P's career. He was born Felix Fellowes to Riley and Joanna Fellowes. Riley and Joanna. So they are his parents. Well, Guy is his father, but yeah. But is never rapped without a moniker. But was he born Felix or was he born David? Because that other article said that his real name is David. Getting kind of mixed messages here. Which one is the real one? He tried to find success by opening for other artists and even by selling CDs on street corners in Portland. He has only recently started going as 5Ps to harness the power of his lineage. The writer did some research into the truth of these claims and was able to confirm that Joanna did work for the Roottree company as a secretary sometime during the early to mid-70s. It also confirms she died of a drug overdose and that Felix went into foster care soon after. They were unable to track down his father. They also reached out to the Roottree company, but at the moment the company's blanket statement was, since the release of a recent book, Roottree has seen an overwhelming number of false ancestral claims. None have been factual and nearly all have been knowingly dishonest. We encourage individuals to reach out to us in an official capacity as opposed to attempting to use our name in the media for publicity. Oh, that's a long article. And here is that photo, right? Joanna, so that's Guy Hudson, that is Joanna. We know that, well, this is Guy Hudson. Oh, where is Guy? Oh, wait, whoops. Never mind, this is not Guy Hudson. This should be Guy Hudson. Guy Hudson was a busy guy indeed. Oh, and here we have... Oh, we have the old list because this is part of the original tree. That's why we get this selection. Guy Hudson, yes. And he was the... Which president again? Third president. And this will be... What was her name? Joanna Fellowes. And what did she do? She was a... She worked as a cashier at like a movie store, I think, right? And her husband, Riley Fellowes. And this would be David himself. We need to... How many do we need to confirm to get some sort of verification? Is it 4? I see 0 out of 4 in the top left, top right corner. Every time you get 4 additional key relatives in the family tree completely correct, name, occupation, and portrait, they will be locked in. Okay, so we need to get 4 correct. I'd like to think that we have 3 correct right now. Joanna, Guy, and David. Well, either David or whatever his other name was. Well, let's read this article where Miracle Roottree. Which miracle? Is this the OG, the 5-piece Miracle Roottree? I think that's the original Miracle, because it doesn't say Junior. Miracle Roottree appeared on the cover of NewsTime shortly after 5Ps did. He vehemently denied the 5Ps was a Roottree. This article was from before the DNA test that proved it. Miracle doesn't focus much on the details of 5P's accusation regarding his mother and Guy Hudson. Instead, he comes across as exhausted at the events that have been going on behind the scenes, as well as the character of those he feels are attacking his family. He starts with the 6 pieces content. He says that although most of the book was based in fact, it left out anything that wouldn't fit the agenda. He points out Sam's daughter still earns a generous salary for overseeing the farm division of Roottree, and that Sam did the same before her. That Sam's family was not destitute and that really it was only her son who chose to take on a job with no salary. He claims that though they didn't have to, the family helped pay for her son's medical bills after voting that it was the right thing to do. Miracle also says that the story about his father, Elias, shunning EC was one-sided, leaving out Edward Clancy's blame in the whole thing. Elias gave him a simple ultimatum: stop sinning or be disowned. Miracle says it was EC's own choice and that Elias allowing him to earn food and shelter on the company's dime was a kindness, especially considering that he and John continued to live together. Miracle then pivots to the fallout from 6 pieces. He recounts a deluge of claims to the clan's trust that the family have been subjected to. He doesn't cite any specifics, but says that every time someone comes forward, the family devolves to arguments. They've had to hire an outside legal team to help, but so far every case has been demonstrably, laughably false. All they do is tarnish his family's reputation. He focuses on 5Ps who appeared on NewsTime before him. He calls him a grifter and a delinquent and says he is using their name and products to sell filth to the masses. Of all the accusations, he says this is the most dangerous because it exposes the world to hatred. He says 5P's lyrics as violent, sexist, and ungodly, and prays the boy will repent, retract his lies, and find religion. Wasn't Miracle the one who scammed people with his religious claims? Lastly, he turns to the future. Miracle states that those that wish to hear the true story can join him on his farewell tour on this upcoming fall, of course. The Miracle's Roottree are planning on touring the country's churches one last time, and that now at age 71, Miracle is the oldest living Roottree. So all the other 5 pieces have died, because he was the youngest. While he plans to continue preaching at his own church in Butler County after the tour, this is your last chance to hear the truth from the man with the most complete recollection of one of America's most notable families in your own hometown. The article mentions that Miracle's son, Miracle Jr., did not wish to comment and has a statement from Clark Rafferty LaRue. Miracle does not speak for his entire family. We're working carefully on a plan to definitively disprove any claims of infidelity in our family's past. The article also does not refute Miracle's claim that he is the oldest living Roottree, despite Sam Madsen being born the year before him. Oh, it was unclear if Miracle made the claim out of ignorance or spite. Well, okay, he's not the oldest living Roottree, then Sam is. Fair enough. Oh boy, there's so much to go for here. Where do we put Miracle's photo? Because I can't add it up here. Does that mean that his photo will be somewhere down here? Or maybe we won't use it. Maybe it's like a red herring, because it did say we will have red herrings. Oh wait, there are some new photos that we can place here. So there will be some other photos of that we can put in the original tree, but not for Miracle, interestingly enough. Which would suggest that his photo will go somewhere down here. Has he been unfaithful in himself, which maybe would explain his overreaction to 5 pieces coming out? Maybe. I'm kind of suspicious of Miracle. I think the next step would be to search for 6 pieces. Oh, there's an older version of this page in the Time Travel Archive. Oh boy, okay. 6 pieces unwrapping America's Sweetest Family by Sam Madsen. We will need to search for this book in the library. Was released in early 1999 and perhaps assisted by the still relatively recent plane crash, shot to the top of the charts. Reviews were mixed and its time on the bestsellers list was limited to only 2 months. Most reviewers agreed that the core of the book about Samantha's fathers and the struggles they faced was compelling and that the takedown of the hypocrisy of Elias Roottree was deserved. However, many took umbrage with the timing of the release and the tone of the book, which seemed vindictive. The fallout from the book led to the Roottree company scrambling to release a statement, and due to a conflict of leadership, famously released multiple conflicting official statements over 3 days. This confusing move was referenced in popular culture due to a late-night sketch about indecisionitis, but more traditional analysts have been calling it the Roottree Rift. A few months later, due to Roottreemania, the book re-entered the charts and sold even better than the first time. Okay, well, let's have a look at that older result as well. According to a publisher's website, 6 pieces is an upcoming book by Sam Madsen. There are no further details about its content or release date. Aha, okay. I'm guessing that's what would have showed up if I searched for 6 pieces in the original scenario. Okay, let's look for this book in the library. Here we go. Sam Madsen's book was released earlier this year and details the truth about Elias Roottree as well as Sam's fathers, Edward Clancy Roottree and John Miller. You helped verify her story, so much of the book's core contents are familiar to you. That said, Sam had some sections on family secrets and rumors. Much of it didn't matter to the primary purpose of the book, and some of it is new to you and may be important to your new search. These sections have been added to your notes. Well, let's have a look. I imagine there will be some juicy info here. Sam's book has a few different passages about her own history with the company and the rumors and gossip she collected during the tenure. She ran the farm for a period starting around 1968, after the death of Elias Roottree, until her daughter Gwyneth took over in 1989. Most of the relevant rumors coincide with the reign of Guy Hudson, who took over as president in 1978. Sam was very much not a fan of Guy. And according to Six Pieces, it was an open secret with the family that Guy was very much not a fan of remaining faithful to his wife, Patricia. Well, clearly. Many of their hires at the time were young, single women, and Guy often spent a lavish amount of money on private parties. This was 20 years ago, and Sam warns that most of it is hearsay. Still, you find the following information that may be relevant. One of Sam's farm supervisors was named Elizabeth. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met, but who worked as one of Guy's secretaries. According to Elizabeth, a caterer from a local restaurant called Antonellis met her daughter at one of Guy's parties, and they eloped quickly due to a pregnancy. Elizabeth wasn't aware that the party was for swingers. Rumor has it that her daughter showed up with Guy and didn't seem comfortable switching partners. Okay. Guy's main positive contribution to the company involved expanding to markets previously untapped by Roottree. However, when he went on trips overseas, they were often for weeks at a time, and Guy was known for spending more time and money on unofficial business than meetings with distributors and manufacturers. It was said that he bribed at least one politician to open a factory in Brazil. So we might have some foreign children as well here. There's also a section where Sam speculates that Elias may have also cheated on Gwyneth. Gwyneth was always much kinder to Sam than Elias was, and was the first to invite Sam to family events. While she has no hard evidence, Sam always got the impression that Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias into allowing Sam back into family using some kind of leverage, instead of it being a natural course of events. She mentioned that Elias and Gwyneth were known to loudly argue sometimes about another woman. Sam also says her son Ernie once asked, "Who's Beth?" because he overheard them yelling about someone with that name. Beth, Elizabeth maybe. Is that the same Elizabeth? Or some other Beth? As far as Sam knows, Elias once had a secretary named Elizabeth, a different Elizabeth than the supervisor from the farm, but she never met her. Oh, that's okay. That answers my question. I can already tell that this puzzle is gonna be a tough one to crack. Antonellis is an Italian restaurant and has been in the Butler County Times twice. The most recent time was when it closed in 1992. The owner, Rochelle Zimmer, sold the land the building was on, and at the time of the article she was unsure if the restaurant would move to a new location or if she would retire. Many years before that, there's a puff piece from Valentine's Day 1978 that asked recently married residents of Butler County how they met. Christine Garland responded. She and her husband Steve, who was a chef at Antonellis, met years ago when she delivered produce from her mother's farm. Steve used to work extra hours just to be there during her deliveries. Although they grew apart when the restaurant switched suppliers, they reconnected by chance and eloped at the end of last year. Now she has a bun in the oven and they're both working as much as they can. She's a secretary, but went back to delivering produce on the weekends, trying to save up money to move to Boston and open their own restaurant. Christine Garland, huh? And a bun in the oven. And her husband's name is mentioned as well, which is kind of a little bit maybe a hint that we might need to fill that name out somewhere. Valentine's Day 1978. Well, it definitely fits the range of time. And he did all of these affairs. Oh boy. I mean, he tragically died in a car accident. And all of these affairs happened only like within a 7-year period. He's been a busy guy indeed. But I'm not sure how I would know which one is her. I guess I mean, each of the ladies he has had an affair with, there are some different details. This one was married with her spouse and had 2 children. This one wasn't married and had 1 child. This one split up from her husband and had 1 child. And this one also split up, final affair, and had 2 children. Well, this definitely wasn't the final affair, because it happened in 78, right? Which would suggest that this would be her, I think. And maybe she had twins, after all. Because, I mean, we know she was married, right? It said. Yeah, her husband. Well, we don't know, maybe they split up. So this could be her as well, potentially. I mean, 78 is slightly closer to the beginning of that range, so I would be more inclined to think that this is... what's her name? Christine Garland. Let's mark it as her for now. We can always switch it later. And her husband, Stephen. What would be her profession? Delivery. Produce deliverer. I don't know. What would that be? Driver? No. I can mark her as secretary, then, if that seems to be her main work at the time. But if she went on to create her own business, then maybe she's a CEO. Let's have her as secretary for now. Rochelle and her husband Mark Zimmer have a few mentions in the Butler County Times. Both are local business owners. Rochelle owned Antonellis, an Italian restaurant, and Mark owned a local bookstore called Bookmarks. Both closed in 1992. Mark was also mentioned once in the Butler County Times when he was sued by Steve Garland. This Steve Garland. Steve Garland is mentioned in a couple of articles. The first was an article about how he met his wife Christine when he worked at Antonellis. The second is from months later in September of 1978, a listing for his weekend cooking classes. Gourmet for the Groovy. This blurb mentions that he's been giving lessons from his home kitchen for the last month, so that he can keep an eye on his son. A single son, not twins. The third was from 1991 and it's titled Local Author Sued by Former Butler County Resident. It seems that a local author by the name of Mark Zimmer was sued by Garland after Garland saw Zimmer promoting his book Kitchen Tales on television. His recipe book was partially plagiarized from the recipes that Steve Garland would give his students during his cooking lessons before he moved. The article mentioned that although recipes are hard to copyright, Garland accompanied each recipe with a short fiction about how he learned it. These usually doubled as a way to remember certain ingredients. Garland's bean salad, for example, involved making a trade with a gnome for some magic beans, okay? Apparently, these stories were found word for word in Zimmer's cookbook, in addition to additional stories that followed the same format. Oh boy, let's try to look for these books, maybe. No, we don't find it. Maybe Steve Garland. No. His recipe book is not in the library. Maybe the plagiarized one. Kitchen Tales. Oh! Here we go. Mark Zimmer's Kitchen Tales. Out of print, re-released as Garnishing the Truth. The entire description of this book, according to library system, is a recipe book that contains stories. Garnishing the Truth. No, we don't find it. It was re-released? Maybe under a different name or something. Garnishing the Truth. Garnishing the Truth is a cookbook credited to Garland and Zimmer. It was released in 1994. It was actually quite successful after the duo appeared to promote it on a daytime talk show. There have been multiple printings since. Ah, so they released it together. According to a book review, the recipes are accompanied by stories that help the reader remember the ingredients. The reviewer says it seems perfect for learning to cook with the entire family. Garland and Zimmer. Here we go. The introduction to this book is a series of acknowledgements from Steve. The first is, Christine, thank you for everything. Your support means the world to me. You are the apple of my pie. Okay. The second is to James and Robert. They did have 2 sons. I knew it! James and Robert. And here we find their names as well. Well, I'm assuming that... Well, let's have James as the older one, maybe. And Robert. You're becoming amazing men and incredible chefs. I guess I'm a good teacher. The final is to Mark Zimmer. You've proved my storytelling approach to recipes could be popular. Without you, this book couldn't exist. There's also a foreword by Mark Zimmer. I first met Steve in 1978 when he taught a cooking class. The next time I saw him was over a decade later when he was suing me for stealing his recipes. Yes, really. So you might wonder what I'm doing in this introduction. Well, it turns out that Steve and I had more in common than we thought. Instead of settling in court, we settled in a mock Karen's brew house over a game of darts. They said they'd give us the first drink on the night free for an entire year for mentioning them. Okay. By the end of the game, he and I agreed we'd both rather make a ton of money together than spend a ton of money on lawyers. It's pretty rare to meet your best friend so late in life, but when I decided to retire, I moved to Boston just so we could hang out. So if you're browsing this book in a bookstore, please buy our book. We need more money for when the free beer runs out, and the bookstore could probably use the sale. Well, we got the names of the children, and I'm imagining the surnames are also Garland. But how would I get their photos? I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe in the recipe book they would have a family photo or something, but I didn't find it. McCarran's Brewhouse is a pub in Boston, and they have a website. Apparently the bar has been around a long time. On the site there's a list of famous people that have had a drink there, including former President of the United States, not the Roottree Company, Kennedy. There's also a few listings of television shows and books that have mentioned McCarran's as well as how they came up. One of them is Garnishing the Truth, which the site has this to say about. Local and regular Stevie G wrote a book about food. We prefer cocktails, but he gave us a shout out and we ain't gonna say no to free press. So go grab a bite at his kids' joint Friday and then swing by to meet him for a drink. His kids' joint Friday. What does that mean? What is a Friday? I don't understand. Friday is a fairly popular restaurant in Boston. His kids' joint... Oh, joint as in like a restaurant. Okay. Friday is a fairly popular restaurant in Boston. They don't have a website, but many locals seem to mention them in various places. One more in-depth review explains that it's not a full restaurant, just a front door and a very small interior with a window. Unusually, the restaurant only serves vegetables, but a lot of reviews say that in spite of that, it's delicious. You also find a short story about it listed on a website called My Boston Homepage. Whoever runs the website seems to just link to random sites related to Boston, tell personal anecdotes related to Boston, and give their relatively short opinions on things in Boston. It's very unorganized. Wicked overrated. I saw it in Chef's Signature, so I went and there was a huge line and they didn't have a single meat dish. What's even the point? Wait, Chef's Signature might be a periodical or something. Yes? Friday. Nice, we got a picture where we might get some photos of the sons or something. Chef's Signature covered Friday less than a year ago, right around the time you were doing your initial investigation. Each article in Chef's Signature tends to focus on a restaurant, and like the magazine's name implies, each restaurant lists the one main dish that the head chef is known for. Friday's signature is the samosa cone. The cover and main article has been added to your evidence. Let's have a look. Here are the brothers. Which one is which? No idea. Sitting down with the Garlands, the new boys in Boston. Chef's Signature, a nationally published magazine targeted towards fans of unusual restaurants, features James and Robert Garland on the cover of their November 1998 issue. According to the article, the two brothers own a small walk-up window in Boston called Friday, a play on the tie-dye shirts that the servers wear that exclusively serves vegetarian dishes. Most of the offerings are heavily inspired by the powerful spices found in Thai and Indian food. Their signature dish is the samosa cone, which from a distance somewhat resembles a traditional ice cream, complete with waffle pattern. Instead, it contains fried potatoes, pureed peas, carrots, and a special ginger-based sauce. Robert, who is 3 years younger than James, Okay, good to know. Jokes that although the age difference has left him delegated to wear the sous chef jacket. Okay, so that is Robert. Let's add it immediately. Robert. James. I mean, he does look a little bit younger, maybe. So we have a chef. Is there a sous chef as well option? No. So just chef, maybe. Sous chef jacket his whole life, he doesn't mind. As a result, James answers most of the interviewer's questions. James credits his love for food and his culinary skills to their upbringing. Most kids hate vegetables growing up, but they don't have parents like we did. My father was a chef and my mother grew up on a farm that supplied his restaurant. That's how they met. I don't have any memories from the farm or anything like that since we moved here before I could even talk. But they told me stories. My dad's a great storyteller. He even wrote a book that partially helped fund Friday. Oh, well, yeah, that book, yeah, the recipe book. When we moved, they were looking to open their own restaurant together. Unfortunately, they never got it off the ground. His line cook gig ended up being less temporary than he hoped, and she had to go back to work as a secretary even after Robert was born. Before we were old enough to go to school, we spent our days with my aunt. In the diner where we worked, my dad had no room for experimenting, so he'd exercise his skills at home on his days off. We'd always go shopping and cook as a family on those days, and even though we were hyper kids running around and causing a ruckus, those were some of our family's favorite memories since we were all together. Mom always had the eye for the best vegetables for him to work with, and she did her best to pass that on to us. According to the article, their parents, who are now retired, visit Friday often. Is there a retired option here? No, retail is... we don't have retired. So I guess the most recent... because we need to select the most recent occupation. Well, I think the most recent one we know for Christine is secretary. We just don't have her photo, though. According to the article, their parents visit Friday often. They even have a signature dessert, the Sistine apple. Apple pie has always been my mom's favorite. And my dad always had this stupid line he used to make her laugh involving apple pie. Most people realize it's a Sistine Chapel pun, but assume that's all there is to it. But it's actually secretly named after them, sort of. Sistine apple, can we search for it somewhere? Oh, this is funny. I was just searching for random things that I saw. The Million Year Picnic is a comic book store in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's one of the oldest comic book stores in the United States, founded in 1974 and named after a short story by Ray Bradbury. If you decide to visit the Million Year Picnic for the first time after playing this game, please tell the owner Tony that you heard about his store from the video game The Roottrees Are Dead by Jeremy Johnston. Fair warning, he has no idea that I did this and will probably be somewhat confused if you're the first person to tell him. Oh, if I was anywhere near Cambridge, Massachusetts, I would definitely visit the store, but I'm not. I guess I could mark this one, him as a chef as well. Okay, well done. I tried to find Christine's photo, but I couldn't. Well, instead we locked in her sons. Well, some other additional entries. Oh, Sam, hello.
Has Clark reached out to you? Well, let me give you a short history lesson about the last few months of my life. 3 different people contacted me, claiming that somewhere in their history, they might be Roottrees. First, that young man, the rapper. I ignored that one. He seemed dubious. But then I saw the news.
Dubious.
I felt terrible. So I began helping the others.
Oh?
Because my doubts with Felix were so misfounded, I ended up putting too much faith in the second person that approached me.
Oh, was that the
I
daughter?
went to the media prematurely. I admit my mistake there, but the third person who contacted me also had a credible case. Before I could help, the company got to them somehow. The fact that the family silenced them doesn't seem to fill me with hope when it comes to Clark's intentions. But you're making progress based on the leads he gave you. It's really hard for me to get a read on him. I'll let you handle it. I've sent you the case I've been working on, and some company records I managed to track down.
Ooh, thank you.
The records are quite dense, but hopefully they're useful. Good luck.
Well, lots of new evidence coming our way. I think this is a good place to wrap up this episode. Press that like button if you've enjoyed it. I definitely have. The mystery really seems to be quite tricky. Lots of different pathways to go, and some of the information is hard to find, but I'm enjoying it a lot. On the right side, you will find the next part of the Roottreemania once it is released. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.